of the XM 1186 or general purpose round or EPR, enhanced performance rounds, because this is identical in construction to M855A1, M80A1. 3179, 3115, 3360.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the King of Armor Destruction, the Armor Wizard. Zap, zap. We have a body armor demo today from Mira Tactical. These are a HESCO private label, model 4403MC to check out today. They are an NIJ level 4 or RF3 under the new NIJ-07 standard. Let's throw these guys on the table and talk about what we're going to do today. In full transparency, Mira Tactical sent these over for me to demo with no strings attached. As I mentioned, these are a HESCO white label, private label for Mira, model 4403MC. These are an NIJ level 4 plate. They weigh 7.765 pounds or 3.52 kilograms. They are only 840 thousandths thick or 21.36 millimeters. As measured, they are true to size at 10 by 12. When we measure that per the label, and we have that, we mark that with a little square in our check mark there. The ending part number is MC, meaning that they are multi-curved, so you can see all those nice sexy curves there. We have one curve right there, and we have one curve right there, and sometimes these little leading edges are curved as well, meaning that depending on your body type, a multi-curve plate will fit you a lot better, and what I feel is it takes a lot of that weight off the shoulder. Now, if this is the first time you're viewing my YouTube channel, we do all of our body armor demos completely different than everyone on YouTube. We're after worst case scenario. I'm a data-centric guy. Sometimes I throw some dad jokes in there, but bear with me if these videos get long. You can always watch them on 2X. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. We also shoot at 0 degrees, again, because that is worst case scenario. And finally, we put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and the end. We foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. We mark our velocities and our penetrations. In the end, we do a tear down. That's a fan favorite where we get to look at the guts of our plates look like. I've tested HESCO in the past, and they do a really good job at building some of their plates, especially laminating their strike faces. I do want to remind everyone that I'm not an NIJ lab, so if you see a threat stopped or penetrated, you should always defer to the manufacturer to produce accredited, recent, and frequent lab results showing that those plates can do exactly what they say they can do. And on the flip side, if you're the manufacturer and you see me stop some kind of insane threat, you should send it off to a lab to have it added as a special rifle threat to your panel. And one more caveat is, again, I am just a hobbyist and I have to stretch my dollars as thin as possible. In an NIJ lab scenario, if they're going to threat test against M2 armor piercing, they're going to shoot it 1, 2, or 3 times at a plate. They're going to fresh plate, and then so on and so forth. They're not going to shoot like M855A1 of that plate that they shot. They're going to get fresh plates. I have to stretch my dollars as thin as possible, so if you see, a penetration after the 7th or 8th shot, don't always assume that that plate is garbage. I'm just, again, stretching my dollars as thin as possible, and I probably didn't need to say that because I said it like 4 times. Plate number 1 is strapped in and ready to go. We'll go right to the level 4 specification, and that's M2 armor piercing. 2942. So that's 2960, so that's 50 feet per second out of spec. 2935. 2885. So that is in specification right there. All right, easy enough. Shots number 1, 2, and then 3. These 2 shots in the NIJ's lab eyes are not fair hits because they are outside of the velocity tolerance. So 2910 is the max, and we were 40 to 50 feet per second over that. This guy though right here measured 2888 on the clock. Maybe for these I just start going to 308 with the 24-inch and that load, because then I'm going to get that velocity for whatever reason. Maybe that 300 Win Mag barrel is a little tighter than the last one, and I still need to pull a few tenths of a grain. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. We have a pass-through on those first 2 non-fair hits, but our 3rd one that was in spec was stopped. Now, we've seen this before with our HESCO private label plates. They build to the specification with a little bit of safety margin, but not too much. And that shot was only 33 millimeters. The clay is getting a little bit on the cold side, but very impressive for stopping the M2 AP shot that was in spec. 5.56 threats to kind of test some of that multi-hit capability. HESCO laminates their plates and constructs them very well, so they usually hold up when I do these multi-hit scenarios. It's going to depend on what kind of backer this plate is using. If it's using polyethylene, it should do fairly well, but if it's using any type of E-glass, we might see some pass-throughs, but I have 3 flavors. We've got our 55 grain M193, known for popping steel, polyethylene stops it. We've got our 62 grain M855, then we have M855A1. This is the U.S. Army's round. 3340, 3301, 3366, 3417, 3132 ending on the Rangecraft, 3125 ending on the light screen if it did read.
All right, this is going to be hard to see because we blew the front cover off, but M193 shots number 1, 2, and then 3, then 4. Then our M855, 1, 2, 3. Then our A1, 1, 2, 3. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. We had just one pass through, and that is on the bottom of that M855A1 shot right there. You could argue that the epicenter and destruction of the ceramic right there from the M2AP could have compromised that area. I can't see for sure what kind of material this is, but this looks more like that E-glass because it's got our individual fibers there. But otherwise, all of our 5.56 shots were contained with no pass-throughs. Pretty darn impressive. This is where you have that trade-off where you have a heavier plate because we're using alumina strike face and it's thicker. We've got our heavier backer, but our multi-hit capability goes up, likely because Husco laminates their strike faces. Plate number 2 is strapped in and ready to go. Hopefully you guys can see me. The sun is blinding me. We've got 2 30 cal threads before we step onto something special. We've got our M14A1 API, Mr. Flashy Flash, he's 152 grain. And again, we have our M2 armor piercing. We're gonna put that right in the middle. $28.89.
Oh my God!
Almost forgot about this. This is our M80A1, pretty much a big brother to M855A1. It's the enhanced performance round. 3115. What I have here are 2 variants of the XM1186 or general purpose round, or EPR, enhanced performance round, because this is identical in construction to M855A1, M80A1. I would say this is the more slender, stronger variant big brother. 3179, 3115, 3360, and I'll have to see where I shot that. 3423 off that guy. I think he's way off to the side. All right, easy enough. M2 armor piercing, our M14A1 API right there, our M80A1 right there, our 6.8 EPR was right there. Then the higher pressure variant was down there. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. Now that's interesting. No pass-throughs, but from the 6.8 at the lower velocity right there. And you could argue that that shot had less destruction to the plate before I shot it than that one. But I think for whatever reason, from everything I've read, this part of our plate, this crown area, this more curved area, can be hard for threats to stop. It's a weaker area, so to speak, on the plate. And I guess if you want to call it a spade, our 6.8 EPR beat out the M80A1 at the same velocity on the same plate. Obviously, you need a lot more shots and a lot more data to say that this is better than that one. But that penetrator is almost as long as the entire M80A1 bullet. But it's interesting that it stopped it down there. Now, there's plenty enough spots in this plate to take some more 5.56 threats, but we've already shown on the last plate that it is fully capable of stopping pretty much all of our 5.56 threats. Probably would even stop M995, but I don't want to shoot one of those because those are rather expensive.
Yeah, for fan favorite, the teardown. That's where we get to look at the inside of our plates to see what they're made of, and we confirm any pass-throughs that we may not have noticed early on, again, because I tried to make sure I do this with some brevity so we don't get too long-winded. So here is plate number 1. Our only 3 pass-throughs were those M2 armor piercings that were above the specification, and this shot down here of M855A1. Otherwise, everything was contained. Now, I'm not going to tear both plates apart because NIJ does a really good job of making sure I can't get in their plates by using lots of adhesive, and it's really hard to tear apart. And it took me literally 10 minutes to tear the second plate apart. So let's look at the second plate. And this is actually pretty interesting. So our only pass-through on here was the 6.8 EPR at 3,115 feet per second. Here is our backer. This is like that E-glass polyethylene type. I measure around 260 thousandths thick. It is pressed, and it's still pretty darn rigid. It is a little bit flexible only because it's on the thinner side. And in the past, when we tested this type of material, it's good at controlling that back face, but when we get some of those threats that are a little faster, this can't act like that catcher's mitt to catch them. It tends to let them through. I don't see any branding on this, but I know they use pretty much U.S. commercial offerings for our polyethylene. Here is our strike face. It is somewhat laminated on the front and the back with more of that material. I measured that right around 430 thousandths thick, and a majority of this strike face is still there. Then on the front side that you saw in some of the shots is our NIJ little drop face foam that we have here. I measured that 110 thousandths thick, or 0.110, and this goes a long way in protecting that strike face from getting any cracks, and it also acts as another laminating layer so that when shots happen and it starts blowing that ceramic out, these different types of materials can catch those ceramic fragments and prevent them from going into your plate carrier and or exiting your plate carrier. Although with ceramic, a lot of the fragmentation that splashes off the side of the plate is going to be at a lot lower velocity than on a steel plate, that then when that jacket and that stuff has to go out to the side. And then we did confirm that that does go all the way out to the complete edge of the plate. We have a little bit of foam on the perimeter that helps that strike face. At 430 thousandths, that is a very, very thick strike face, and that is usually what is needed in alumina to ensure that you are stopping our M2 armor piercing. It's kind of cool. You can see some of that crack propagation that happens as it spreads out from the center of the impact. And with all that being said, that's about all she wrote, folks. I think we've proven that this plate against 5.56 can soak up quite a bit of different threats, and our M2 armor piercing, it can do so very nicely at the spec velocity with a little bit of leeway in there. Well, folks, that concludes another test out here at the range. Our Mira Tactical NIJ private label 4403 MC, I think, did very well, especially against our 5.56 threats for being a level 4 plate. A majority of that strike face remained intact, even though we hit 10 rounds of 5.56 on it in addition to our 30 caliber threats. I think going forward, I may nix the 300 Win Mag for our M2 AP velocity specs and just go to that max loading in our 308, because it seems like no matter what I keep doing, I've dialed that load back, I think 1.5 grains from where I was originally at, and we're still over spec. So I don't know, maybe if the BC8 barrel that I got replaced is a little tighter and so we're seeing better velocities. But usually with some of our level 4 offerings, once we hit above that max variance of 2910, we're starting to see some pass-throughs, and some people get a little bit grumpy about that. But again, we're after worst case scenario, and in the real world, you're likely never to encounter that velocity from M2 armor piercing. We'll continue to do some more testing with our 6.8, but I think because it is a longer projectile overall than say our M80A1, it is showing us a lot better results against our body armor than that, and then we can actually crank the velocity of that up. We're seeing 3,400 feet per second out of that 16-inch versus M80A1 out of a 24-inch, maxing out right around 3,115 feet per second. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here. But at the end of all of my videos, to take a moment to thank all those who helped make these possible, because there's a lot that goes into them. Number one is my family. Deacon would like to remind you all to like and subscribe to these videos and share them if possible to get that algorithm working for us and not against us. Number two are my YouTube and Patreon channel members. Number three is Mira Safety. Again, in full transparency, send us those plates to destroy with no strings attached. Number four is Dozer Munitions and War Pig Armory. And of course, number five is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range. We use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina #1 clay from Chavant. That's the same clay that the NIJ uses, but they have a large oven and it pretty much lives in there all day heating. I don't have that luxury. It's like 50 to 55 degrees outside here. So I have my own little igloo oven that I will heat the clay up in before I go to shoot. But once I take it out of the oven, it's going to start to get cold. So we're just looking at a representation of back face. If we see something like 50 to 60 millimeters of my clay for a given threat, that likely would be failing in the NIJ's eyes. Since this armor employs a ceramic strike face per the NIJ, we've gone ahead and dropped each plate 2 times on its face as a preconditioning test. After we've done our drop test, we mark each plate with a DT and a check mark indicating that we've done a drop test. If we do it more than 2 times, we put a little parentheses there, and then we do a torque test. That's where we take the opposing edges of the plate and we apply force to listen for any cracking. Both of these plates pass that, so we mark that with a TQ. This plate does employ a complete edge-to-edge ceramic strike face, meaning that for this given 10 by 12 size, that ceramic leads almost all the way out to the most perimeter edge. Some companies will sell you a lighter plate because they put a foam or non-ballistic ring around the strike face, and sometimes people can assume that that's what you see right here, and then sometimes you pretty much have to check by stabbing the outer edges with a sharp object to know, or just ask the manufacturer. We use a chronograph whenever possible. We have a Prochronal Pal Digital DLX as well as our Athlon Optics Rangecraft chronographs. We have 2 data sets there, so if one fails, we can usually make sure that the other one does. And I do that so when I say I'm shooting M193 at 3250 feet per second or faster, you guys had that instant feedback to know that I'm not skewing the test at all. Or even with M2 armor piercing, that velocity is 2880 feet per second, and you're not going to see that out of a 1903 or an M1 Grand with conventional surplus loads.